Right, so how we can improve this? What can we suggest as the reforms, right? Especially when you talk about the dichotomy perspective here, right? Generally we see in the large municipalities, the IAS or the civil servant is very powerful and not the elected councillor or the chairman, even though they are powerful, but the structure is such that generally the civil servants, the career civil servants become more influential, and there seems to be a clear-cut dichotomy which probably is not working for the urban governance. In smaller urban areas, we do not see that kind of dichotomy, and there is more political influence over urban administration. Right? There the things again are more problematic and corrupt. So where we see the dichotomy, where we see a clear-cut distinction between the functions of the political system and the urban administration, there also the functioning is not very good. Where we see extensive politicization, there also the functioning is not very good. So there has to be a via media, there has to be a balanced approach towards political functions and administrative functions under municipal administration, under municipal governance. That is one important thing which we must look into. Right, then you have right, rural development or rural local governance as one area which is again very important. Governance, decentralized planning, all those topics generally relate to this. Right, so here very important thing first is to understand the features. Right, you get questions on these features also. Right, then obviously the role of panchayat, functioning of panchayats, right, their powers, functions, and somewhere their role in planning. Right. Then Gram Sabha, a lot of questions can be asked on Gram Sabha. Right, nature of functioning of Gram Sabha, its utility, its democratic relevance, changing role. You see how the impact of technology and decentralization of power, right, and declining powers of district administration, how it has redefined the role of the Gram Sabha, right? Then social audit and Gram Sabha. Okay, there has been a talk about giving more powers to the Gram Sabha. So local government basically, the State Finance Commission, its role, while function of auditing rural local bodies. Then obviously the impact of your PESA, FRA, right? These are more integrated into these questions which are asked, right? PESA, what is the impact of PESA, what is the features of PESA, right? FRA, Forest Rights Act, and then your specific relationship with the 5th and 6th schedule, right? How the questions can be designed around this idea. Fine. Then your local governments generally, how it has helped in doing this, how it has helped in democratization, how local governments have helped in empowering women. That is also one very important aspect here. So women development or women empowerment sorry is an important issue, women empowerment, right? women social movements. This is also a very important aspect. Women social movements, okay, at the grassroots level, and how the Panchayat Raj institutions have been instrumental in achieving this goal, or to what extent they have contributed to this idea, right? Why we do not have effective women sarpanches, why we do not see that kind of gender equality at the local level in terms of functioning of local bodies, right? So they can ask a variety of questions around this idea, fine. Limitations of Gram Sabha, inefficiency of Gram Sabha. Do you think Gram Sabha needs more powers? What should be the financial powers, right? Like we talk about. Functions, finances, functionaries, functionality and framework. Right? Major aspect of the rural local bodies which needs to be strengthened, right? And how the emergence of CSC like 2.0, right? Common Service Center. So we have to obviously integrate some policies, rural development policies, programs, right, welfare schemes, right, coupled with obviously census data to make our answers more effective, right? That is also very important aspect. Fine, then moving to the next issue or theme, which is generally visible, right, relates to majorly your law and order issues. Right, law and order issue, see, there can be a lot of questions, but I would presume that this is majorly you are dealing with this topic majorly in your internal security issue or your paper 3 of GS also. Right, some part of paper 2 of GS you deal a lot of things here, so you must understand them, right? Law and order issues here, basically you know about police reforms is one area, which is again too theoretical, it's not something extraordinary, right? But you can evaluate by some comparative data. You can go for NCRB, National Crime Record Bureau, BPRD, Bureau of Police Research and Development, and IIPA even case studies, they will help you. National Crime Record Bureau, Bureau of Police Research and Development, Indian Institute of Public Administration, National Institute of Governance, various, right? So one aspect is this, obviously this is more about, today it is more about technology and policing, right? Then issues like moral policing or community policing, problems of policing in urban areas, problems of policing in rural areas. A lot of themes can be generated here. right? Also, like you're talking about smart policing today, right? Community-based policing, or morality and ethics in law and order administration. Fine. Then this can be more about, basically judicial reforms as well. Right? Not much questions will be asked in Unit 3, that is Union Government, but more questions can be asked here. Judicial reforms, right? When you talk about judicial accountability, All India Judicial Services, and all those things, right? This will again lead to smart policing, and other things will lead to more about reforms in criminal justice system. Now, criminal justice is a bigger term which will include your judicial reforms as well, right? Prison reforms as well. So recent committees, recent recommendations are there on prison reforms, right? Bail reforms. Etc., etc., etc. Right? So this is a dynamic area, right? These are direct themes which are emerging from police reforms as an area, or law and order with police as focus, right? There are some allied themes which emerge from this topic, right? These allied themes. Right, lot of allied themes also emerge from this topic, like you can talk about central police organizations, right, versus state police. Fine. Functioning of central investigative agencies like CBI, right, issues and other things. Then internal security is a problem. Okay. Center, state, local relations. Internal security as an important issue that can be asked. Right, a lot of things can be asked here, but this is a major theme here, right? CPO versus state police, right? Then politicization of police, right? Corruption and other issues. Politicization, corruption, service conditions, autonomy debate, right? To what extent policing is required as a function, to what extent police should be given autonomy, okay, and how the police, government and citizen relationship should be established. So, politicization, corruption, service condition, and citizen police relations. Most of the developed countries of the world are also facing the problem of how to improve this interface. Right? Then you can talk about obviously the impact of technology, EFIRs, right? Investigation, putting the charge sheet on the net, digitization of records, right? minimum physical interaction between the police and the citizen, all those things you can talk about, right? This brings to another important area, that is that is your administrative reforms and issues. Now this covers basically the entire sense of whatever you have studied in public administration, whether paper 1 or paper 2. It covers all the sense, everything technically integrated into this topic, right? So you will be talking about ICT, e-governance. Okay, you will get questions about personnel administration, reforms in civil services, Karma Yogi, Sparrow, lot of things, right? Committees, performance management, okay, like competency framework, RFD, results framework document, right? Performance management system, right? Performance audit, (180-degree, 360-degree evaluation). Fine, these are very important themes which will be there now. Administrative reforms will not be only related to the internal administrative reforms or reforms in the structure. It will also be focusing on reforms outside, like for example citizen administration relationship. So when we talk about e-governance or use of RTI or social audit or citizen charters or any other kinds of these fundamental changes that we are doing, okay, right now, okay, or Right to Public Services Act, they basically focus or they basically somewhere impact the nature of administrative reforms in the country. So you cannot neglect to again integrate, right, these aspects here. Citizen charters, e-governance, Right to Public Services Act, and all this will be integrated here itself. Then some contemporary issues here, lot of current affairs aspects are asked here, right? Based on this only, contemporary issues, right? Basically one is area which is very favorite is basically budgetary reforms and financial reforms. Then disaster management. It's an emerging governance problem. Then questions on environmental governance can be asked. Fine. Then internal restructuring. Recent internal restructuring of administration, right? Corruption, right? So reforms to Prevention of Corruption Act 1988. What reforms have been done? Then enactment of Whistleblowers Protection Act. So Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 or Whistleblowers Protection Act 2011 or 13, whatever we say. Then you have a lot of suggestions being given to reform or bring changes to your Article 308 to 315. Okay. Then emergence of commissionerate system, right? Especially police reforms. Increasing role of forensics, right? Either you call it e-forensics, digital forensics, or you call it general criminal forensics. These are all the areas which are emerging, which are the interface of technology and governance, technology and policing, technology and reforms, right? Which are creating a very important discussion or debate around what should be the nature or inherent nature of this reform in the civil services, right? So this will be, or these issues will be allied issues, but they will also be more or less reflected in your question paper. Apart from that, you can say a lot of contemporary reforms have been, they've talked about like changing pattern of recruitment, classification system, okay, lateral entry, right, specialist versus generalist debate, right? What is the rationality of all this? And likewise, right? A lot of details have been provided if you have the Bridge Volume 2, right? It covers extensively the topics like PSU, lateral entry, and the issues related to that, right? It also covers certain the speech given by the Joint Secretary of Ministry of Personnel, right, at the IIPA, right, and likewise. So they have that, it has a good content which you can use, fine, if you are using it, or you can ask from the office. Bridge Volume 2, basically, right, and then you can say that, okay, fine, in essence, this is the entire classification, right? Okay, fine. If you have not got, you can please ask for it, right? So this is the entire, you can say, logic, the essence of how the dynamic or paper 2 dynamics change, right? So this is more about the interlinkage of the paper itself. Now another important aspect is obviously how one paper is linked to the another paper. So that is also a very important aspect. So apart from discussions, which we'll write various themes and we'll write the issues related to them, and we'll try to form a basic structure around which the answers can be developed. But apart from that, you need to have some basic understanding of, let's say, first ARC certain recommendations and second ARC certain recommendations and their comparison. Paul Appleby report, which is generally fundamental to the administrative reforms and whatever the suggestions were given, right? Then financial reforms to a large extent, like FRBM Act or FRBM rules, right, or GST and GST Council, these kind of certain financial reforms and the initiatives, they more or less somewhere are visible in the question paper. They can also be visible in paper 1, right, where you have financial management, right, or financial administration. It can be reflected there also. Personal administration. So majority of administrative reform questions can be linked to that aspect also. So another important part is obviously to interlink between the paper 1 and paper 2, right? Now obviously this can be done if you have a very strong conceptual understanding of paper 1, right, and the dynamic nature of paper 2, right. Paper 2, 40% of the questions are static in nature, which do not require much of effort, and they can be done usually from any standard textbook, not necessarily to be, you can say, not something which can be taught, but it is something which needs to be generally acquired as an information or fact. Any standard book does it, right? The challenging part is obviously to undermine and determine the themes and the various issues which will emerge under a particular topic and how one topic will be linked to another. Fine. As far as this interlink between 1 and 2 is concerned, now that is, like I said, if you are thorough with concepts in paper 1, if you are able to understand the underlying idea, it will be easy for you to link rigs with corruption in paper 2. Like I said, the Indianization of civil services, the changing dynamics under the British period or colonial administration, the nature of reforms which they were seeking, right? And if that is linked to the chicken egg model of rigs, right, it will give us, let us say, a better sense of linking theory with practical aspect, right? Or when you are talking about the rigidity and the colonial features of Indian bureaucracy, you can obviously link it to Weberian features, right? Or if you're talking about the dilemma of civil services in India, they are not active, they are not proactive, they somewhere lack decision making, definitely you can use Simon's model of decision making or decision making in general and integrate it by saying that, okay, a major component of decision making in civil services is value based, not fact based, right? Politicization itself is an indication of that, right? Civil services neutrality and activism, now these are also areas which are very important to be understood, but theoretically they are understood in paper 1 and practically in paper 2. So when we talk about Alappan, the West Bengal Chief Secretary, an All India Service Officer, but his behavior, probably his orientation, somewhere violated the concept of neutrality but promoted the concept of activism, because it was purely a fight between the central government and the state government, and not necessarily the issue was related to the role of Chief Secretary. The Chief Secretary was being made as the scapegoat in the political vendetta amongst the two governments, right? So if you see practically, if you use the concept of imbalanced polity of rigs, you can theoretically also explain this logic, right? Or if you bring the concept of bureaucratization, right, or tendency of bureaucratization as highlighted by Weber, okay, then also it can be explained that, okay, there is a strong tendency of bureaucratization or bureaucratic politics which emerges in the context of India, right? Especially when you see at the state level, the All India Service Officers and the state level ministers or politicians, how their relationship works, right? Then Sushant Singh Rajput case, like we talk about, see central government agencies, central police agencies, central investigative agencies and local police conflict is quite visible. That itself is a strong issue related to federalism in India, right? A nature of federal relationship, especially when it comes to political and administrative relationship. This can be, you can say, very well explained when we talk about comparative public administration, when we use the models of CPA, okay, when we talk about the increasing growth of administrative law, independence of central administrative institutions, but somewhere declining the autonomy of the state governments. Right? This is also happening parallelly. If CBI is powerful, most of the state governments become meek in front of the CBI. Right? So there are various logic, Peter principles, Parkinson's law, theory of justice, John Rawls, utilitarianism, Bernard's contribution, satisfaction, equilibrium, leadership models, motivation theory, McGregor's technically X and Y logic. Okay, all can be somewhere used in paper 2, right? But there is a word of caution that they should not be used without relevance. They should not be used just for the sake of increasing the value of the answer, even though in reality it would be degrading the value of the answer because it has not been used wisely. Right? So like I said, if you have a common sense understanding of the theories, right, and you know the basic concepts, it will become easy for you to link both. So that will be the next step, right? For today, this classification will work. Kindly go through this classification, right? We'll start with this classification and we'll try to finish off or give you variety of content related to this, so that that can be as it is used in the answers, and at the same time you can predict a lot of questions from here itself, right? And you'll be amazed to see that variety of these questions will be visible in your mains exam, right? So let us keep this structure for today and let us start with the discussion, analysis and the content, right? And wherever required, we'll keep linking your paper 1 with that. Fine? So see you then. Thank you so much.